Hi, this is Fish and welcome to Fish Picks. Today I'm going to be sharing two key safes with you, one made in the 1980s and one which I picked up on Amazon just last week. Given that manufacturers have had 40 years to innovate and improve the physical security offered by these kind of locks, is that reflected in these models? Let's find out. You may recall that last week I offered a tutorial on how to make and use a notched decoder, which can be employed to open a number of commercially available key safes. What's interesting about this model, made by Rhino locks, is that neither of the techniques I taught in that episode seem to work on this unit. First, there's no sprung plate, which we can grip using the notch towards the tip of this tool. And when probing between the wheels of the lock, every second position has an indentation, and I haven't so far been able to determine the difference between the false and true gates. If the manufacturers had kept this simple design, this would have been a weatherproof, robust and effective security system. Unfortunately, they decided to include what they describe as a patented code recovery system, which is why there's a turning knob and a keyway above the dials. Should you forget your combination, this keyway offers an override option, but by introducing a second means of access, a new vulnerability has been built into the system which we can exploit in at least two ways. First, by turning the opening knob clockwise, we can place the number dials under tension. And if we then rotate each dial one digit at a time and test for the amount of play in each position, one of the positions will reveal much more back and forth movement, which is a telltale sign that we found the first true gate. And then by repeating this process for the other three dials, we can go on to achieve an open. This is of course ironic. The code recovery system has rendered this otherwise nicely built lock essentially useless. But of course the turning knob has a keyway, which also means that their lock can now be attacked using any of the raking and picking methods that we would apply to any other pin tumbler lock. I've experimented with a number of different tools, and as you can see, this model doesn't have any security pins and can be opened very easily. I managed to secure easy opens with the Bogota rake and by single pin picking this keyway, so the 10,000 possible combinations offered by the four wheels below have been reduced to the relative position of just 4 key pins here. This is a good example of a mismatch between providing for the convenience of the user at the expense of the product's functionality. So let's turn the clock back 40 years. In the early 1980s, I was in a boarding school in the Kent countryside. I had hair, and on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, realtors in the US were just starting to use this, the Multac real estate lock. I picked this vintage beauty up on eBay, and it is a fascinating bit of kit. The shackle is held in place by this combination dial, which has 20 digits, meaning that there are 8,000 possible release codes just here. This is entirely separate, however, from the security measures in place to protect the safe tray at the bottom of the unit, which would house the keys. This can only be accessed if you know a 5-digit combination, which would enter into the front-facing wheels here. In addition, you would then be required to insert a programmer key into the side of the unit, which would have a unique groove cut into it. This was designed to interact with the sliders within the lock body. Each combination code will produce a unique slider arrangement, so you can have multiple agents with different codes and corresponding programmer keys, and the integrity of the system would be maintained. To access the lock, you would therefore have to have the correct 5-digit code and the corresponding programmer key. This lock also contains a Mylar tape film carrier which keeps track of every successful lock open, serving as a kind of primitive audit trail so the owner would know which agents had accessed the keys and in which order. Now, unfortunately, this unit didn't come with a programmer key, and I have no idea what the viable combinations for this lock are, so I'm at a loss for how to progress towards a non-destructive open. But there is, however, another member of the Locksport community who has expressed an interest in having a play with this unit, so I'm going to be passing this on, and hopefully they can bring their considerable experience to bear on this challenge. So here we have two units designed to do essentially the same thing, and while it might not be fair to compare like to like, it does strike me that in terms of pure security, we may have taken a backward step or two along the way. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please do leave a like and a comment if you feel moved to do so, and until next time, take good care.